Hey, so I do lots of big home improvement projects around here, and I always say that I'm going to document them and film them, and then I never do because I end up spending way too much time actually doing the projects and not documenting them or chasing a one-year-old around. We're starting on a really big backyard project, and I thought, hey, here's a good chance to challenge myself to actually try to document something I do around here. There's gonna be a couple pretty cool projects, I think, going on, and so I thought I would just tell you about some plans that I'm making here and kind of walk through the first project. You can see behind me the backyard is in total shambles. I've been tearing gravel out for ages. It feels like yards and yards and yards of gravel. But anyways, let me turn the camera around here. I'll show you what I'm working on. The first part of this project, you see this hose laid out down here in this kind of oblong shape, is going to be a pond, probably in a shape something like this, about 40 by 20 at its widest points. And then I'll have a stream running along this area coming up. I'll have a big what's called a wetland filter over here that feeds the stream that comes down and runs into the pond. So I think this is going to be a pretty darn awesome project. Is it a huge pond? For this space, I think so. Maybe if you live on some acreage out in the country or something, you're like, yeah, this is not so interesting. But for a 10,000 square foot lot in a suburban neighborhood, I think it's going to add some really cool scale to the project, you know, to the property. But there are a significant number of challenges to this, and I've been racking my brain over it for a long time. Let's document some of those challenges so you can see what you might be up against if you were to try to do something like this yourself, like I am. First of all, a lot of concrete has to go. So this patio's got to go. This sidewalk pathway is going to go. All of the concrete over here has got to. So basically, just a ton of concrete has got to go. Next, when you're digging the pond, a lot of the dirt that comes out of there, you have to find a place to put it. It's not great to put it in a truck and try to take it away, haul it away, or try to handle it multiple times, getting rid of it and giving it to your neighbors or something. You know, you got to shovel it 1,000 times to get it where it needs to go. You kind of want to just take it out of the hole and put it where it's going to go and not have to touch it again. And I think a lot of it is going to need to come out of here and go up here. But as you can see, as I have it laid out, once you start digging, unless you're digging from this side, and I don't think you could possibly dig, you know, starting here and dig all the way over there, I don't think you could sit your excavator in one spot and get all of the dirt out of there and get it over, you know, into this area or uphill from here. So you're going to have to work at it from both sides, but there's not going to be a path once you start digging. There's not going to be a path between the deck and the edge of the pond to get an excavator around. So you're either going to be hand digging or running an excavator or 2 excavators or something and going all the way around the house and coming in over here. I haven't figured this out at all yet. And obviously the pear tree is going to go. That's just one of the challenges. I've got like a million challenges on this project that I'm really looking forward to, but I'm also a little bit anxious about. Number one, up here, we'll just start here at the top of the hill, where I'm going to have some sort of wetland filter. And what a wetland filter is like it's going to be a hole in the ground, basically a large hole in the ground, not too deep, and it's going to be filled with pea gravel, and the pump from the pond is going to pump water up into the bottom of this gravel pit, and that water is going to filter up through that gravel, and there'll be plants planted in that gravel, and that's what's going to provide all of the filtration, all of the biological filtration that cleans out the water before sending it back through the stream down into the pond. And that's how we're going to keep algae out of the pond and make it suitable and keep the water clear so that you can look at little goldfish and stuff, or, you know, feel comfortable, you know, taking a dip in it if you want to. But you know, there's a lot of ways to do a wetland filter, and I think it's going to work okay. But here's the challenge: I've got a downspout here, and you can see I dug a hole just to see how deep it is. It's about 18 inches, which should be deep enough. Is where the lateral for that downspout comes. Runs down here to, I assume, some sort of dry well. I have no idea where any of the rainwater off of my roof goes. It comes down a downspout, hits these underground pipes, and just goes somewhere and disappears. And I really like that water just disappears and doesn't pool anywhere. We have no drainage issues, hardly at all, on this property, and I don't want to mess with that. I thought about for a little bit, you know, diverting. How cool would it be to take the rain off of the roof and put it in the pond, or put it in the wetland filter and let it run down to the pond to fill the pond. Cool in theory, but when you actually start thinking that through, you run into a bunch of potential problems that you may or may not want to mess with. Second issue, which is going to hopefully turn out to not be an issue, is, see that clean out right there? That is, we got a sewer lateral coming out of the basement right there. This house was built in the 60s, and when it was built, it was on a septic system. So the septic system is in the backyard, and when it was converted to city sewer, you don't change the entire indoor part, indoor plumbing part of the house. You just take where your sewer came out to go into your what did I just say? Septic system before, and you find a way to get it to the street. Well, the way that they found to get it to the street, and because this house has challenging plumbing to begin with, because there's actually two sewer drops in this house, is it comes out over here, travels down here, and this is a bigger deck now. I think a long time ago there used to be a much smaller deck, and it comes out here and it turns right about where this tree is and heads this way. All right, and it comes all the way down here, all the way over here at 19 feet off of the house. It comes down here, turns, and then goes all the way out to the street. So there's probably 150 feet or better of sewer pipe coming out of the back of the house. Now, do you see this big, this thing right here? This is a lift station. And a lift station it just collects sewage and pumps it up to a line. Why does that happen? Well, over here on this side of the house, where the sewer comes out for some bathrooms and sinks and all the stuff that's over on this side of the house, it was when it was built, it's high enough to just drain all the way to the depth of the sewer line in the street that's in the front of the house. But because there's a bathroom in the basement and with a shower and toilet and everything, and that is the floor of that is down 4 feet below what this is, when that drain comes out, it's too low. The sewer in the street is higher than the sewer line I have coming out of the bottom of the house. So poop can't flow uphill, so you have to put it in a pit like this and then use a pump to pump it up to meet this line that's coming off of the rest of the house. And it falls into that and then falls there. So I've got a line coming out here to about there. Anyways, as you can see, there's a bunch of plumbing buried underground here that I have to make sure I don't run into as I'm digging a giant hole in the backyard. Most people's backyards don't have plumbing running all over the place, or maybe irrigation or something, but probably not sewer. Most people with newer houses or houses that were built with that were connected to the sewer in the first place, the plumbing goes out the sewer goes out the front. Not mine. What other challenges are there going to be? Oh, so if I put the pond here, and remember this is all conceptual right now. I'm about to pull the trigger and start digging, but I do have an emergency parachute in case I change my mind. You don't typically, you can, but it makes it more challenging, is you don't typically put a pond in the low spot of your property. Like, it seems to make, you'd think it would make sense, right? Well, where is water going to collect? In the low spot. Well, let's put a pond there. Not really, because you want the low spot of your property to either, well, really you want the low spot of your property that's going to collect water to, for that water to percolate back down into the soil. Well, if you put a pond in that low spot, now you're turning what is pervious soil, where water that collects here can just percolate down into the soil and disappear and not cause problems for you or your neighbors. It's not going to run off in your neighbors. Well, putting a pond here is like putting a patio here. It's like putting a hard surface. Rainwater is going to run onto it's. Water doesn't sink through water. There's going to be a rubber liner that lines the pond. So now the soil underneath the pond is separated from, the rainwater that is going to fall on this area. So I need to, and living in the Northwest, we get a lot of rainwater. I have to make sure that when I design this, the way that it's designed is that eventually this pond is probably going to overflow from rainwater, especially because we have a little bit of a drainage problem. The gutter on this deck, which I definitely do want to do, just kind of drains off into this area over here and makes a big mess. I want to dump that into the pond and use the pond a little bit as a retention pond. But you got to make sure that when you build this pond that you have enough freeboard. The top wall, the top of the pond, the water level has enough space to raise and lower that when you get massive rainfall, it doesn't create a huge flooding event. And so what I'm probably going to have to do is, as I design and dig out this pond, there'll be we'll shoot the levels around it and make sure that the water level is where I want it, but then we're going to have a little depression, somewhere maybe in here somewhere, where that wall is just a little bit lower, and that's going to be the overflow route. And whenever the pond overflows, it's going to either flow out over this area, which I think is going to be a kind of gravel fire pit. And this is going to be really cool. So you see there's kind of a narrow section here. I'm going to build a bridge across this area to a little gravel patio over here that'll have a fire pit. You can look out. I'll stand over there. You can look out across, and there'll be, nice stuff to look at over here. It won't be a pile of wood and cardboard. Anyways, those are the primary challenges. It all seems doable. I'm really, really excited to get started. But there have been a lot of head scratching to make sure that I manage water coming off of the property properly, that I don't hit pipes as I'm digging, and that the whole system is just designed in a way to be as low maintenance as possible, because you don't want to put stuff in your backyard that you then have to tend to with a lot of fervor forever. You want things, or at least I want things. I like to work really, really hard in the beginning so I can be as lazy as possible later on, and then just enjoy the fruits of my labor. So putting in a lot of effort and thought into this. And that's kind of a brief walkthrough of what we're thinking about doing back here. This video is now incredibly long, so I'm going to cut it off. And I'll follow up sometime in the future as we reach the next stage, maybe once all the concrete is out of here.